You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Meta Show. Today is Saturday, October the 24th, 2020. I am your host, Brisk Rubal. I am joined by our co-host, the Matani, who had an unfortunate gastric incident yesterday.
Well, I mean, it's fortunate. It's just, Mittens goes to White Castle, except, I didn't know that you could get, I'm explaining this. If you were on the fireside, you already know the situation, but I'm letting people know about this in case I have to abruptly get up and run from the screen to avoid shitting my pants on live TV. I don't think we're going to get to that point, but I did have some sliders last night. We had a lot of confused Europeans who were wondering what the hell White Castle was or what a slider is. And I guess you never watched Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, but I had a craving. They were delicious last night. And last thing, we had a great fireside. We had 1,100 people turn up, and imagine as an alliance leader in the middle of a war, because if I abruptly randomly go AFK or something happens and the Matani has disappeared on a fireside, it could be a big drama. And so going okay, well, I have to tell everybody about the status of my gastric system and explain what a White Castle is and have to explain why I would eat these things. And anyway, it's been an adventure downstairs, but there we go. So now everybody is warned. Everybody, we're done with that. So if you see me randomly get up and run away, that's what it is. We have a great show today. We're going to do a traditional meta show. We've got a lot of CCP news. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. I was about to call him Frank, but Brisk has a soapbox we're going to get into in a moment. And then in a little bit, we are going to have Fountain Frank is going to be visiting us. We've got some videos to play you. We have dev blog stuff to discuss. CCP is nerfing more things. Things are getting changed. The economy is disrupted. And of course, there is war news. And so we're doing it all. I know I promised a black shirt show last week, but it's hard to really get into the black, Vince McMahon, swing of things of playing the heel when you're trying to recover from a White Castle pinch. So let's get stuck into it. What are we talking about today, Brisk? I know that you have a soapbox.
So first of all, I mean, this has been the talk of, I think, the game since yesterday. Pretty much every show has covered it pretty considerably. So obviously we're not going to look it out. We're not going to not be part of that. The dynamic bounty system announcement from the devs yesterday that they are going to be in the process of putting together a system that will reduce bounties in systems that are safe, that have lots of kills in them. And I think just for those of you who are playing along at home who are getting confused, I know this was an issue yesterday. When we're talking about dynamic bounties, we're not talking about player bounties. We're not talking about the kinds of bounties that you put on another player. We're talking about ratting income. We're talking about when you kill a rat, you get the bounty from Concord on that rat, whether it's Blood Raider or Serpentis or Sancha or whoever. So calling it the dynamic bounty system, I think, it makes sense from an EVE standpoint, but I think for the rest of us, I've been referring to it as diminishing returns because that's really what it is. And they had a number of reasons to justify doing this. Among them, they had a autarky. Autarky is anathema to free markets and some other funny little phrases. But the fundamental thing they wanted to do, or at least they believe, is that doing this will create conflict because it's going to force big groups to move around. They're not going to be able to concentrate all of their ratters in one system because if the system is too safe and there's too much ratting going on, then the bounties will drop and they won't make as much ISK. And they'll go to the systems that have either more risk or that where there are fewer people so that the bounties are either at equilibrium level or at up to 110%. That's essentially what it is. We'll talk a little bit more about it later in the show. I just wanted to lay that groundwork for my soapbox, which is I still think, and we have had a number of meta shows talking about this, I still believe CCP, at least the team working on this aspect of the game, still has a fundamental misunderstanding about why we go to war. They just don't get it. And I know we've done a ton of shows on why the big groups fight and why they don't fight and what motivates them and what doesn't motivate them and what gets people to log in and what doesn't get people to log in. And I'll tell you right now, I can count on one hand the number of wars in the last 10 years that were substantial wars that were fought over resources. It's like 2, maybe 2. Arguably the Fountain War and maybe some of the little ones in low-sec over moons. We don't fight over resources in EVE. We don't fight over ISK in EVE. We don't fight over material wealth in EVE. The ships are the ammo. The players logging in, we create the reasons for the fights. And if you look at all of the major wars in history, they've all come down to one side picking a fight with the other side for whatever reason. Typically, it's all personality driven. This last war, the current war that we are in, arguably, was designed around the idea of certain players wanting to put their names in the history books by doing something that everybody thought was impossible. Which is exactly the same reason why Init went and took out HK's Keepstar in Fort Knox in Rage, because we said nobody could do it. We wanted to prove them wrong. The guys in the Pappy Coalition right now are trying to prove the idea that the Imperium is unassailable wrong. That's why they started this war. Previous wars have all been about different things. Casino War. We've talked about how the Casino War started on this show. It wasn't over resources. The Great War wasn't over resources.
Boy.
Exactly. And we don't have to get into it, but I'm telling you, when it comes down to it, in a sandbox game like EVE Online, you have tools, you have things that you can do that will provide the ecosystem and a good environment in which to have a war. But the fundamental thing that gets these guys to go fight is somebody decides they want to go do something to the other team. And if you don't have that, and you can't create that, you can't force that. You can't make somebody sit there, well, I don't want to fight you, but I have to. It's not like that. It's not like the guy, why do you keep smacking yourself type thing. You can't force people to do that in EVE. The devs seem to think that they can. And part of this philosophy about this resource depletion and the mining changes, the ratting changes, all the nerfs to income, the reduction in nullsec income, the moving of stuff around is designed to reduce the amount of wealth. And that is somehow supposed to make fighting more meaningful because we're more afraid to lose ships, when in reality it's going to make it less likely that we fight because we're afraid to lose ships. Nobody goes out there and says, well, I know I'm never going to be able to replace this Titan, but YOLO. We don't do that. That's not human nature. You husband the stuff that you care about and then that you can't afford to lose. And if this is a game where you don't fly what you can't afford to lose, you're not going to fly all the expensive stuff. So by reducing the amount of wealth, I can understand the desire to keep the economy in a safe place. And if we were seeing rampant inflation, then yeah, I could understand reducing the income for nullsec players. But we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is constant nerfs to income. We're not seeing any resulting inflation. There is inflation, but it's the standard stuff that you would normally see of guys trying to do market PvP and undercutting or raising prices depending on demand. There's nothing crazy going on in that regard. Plex prices went up and down, and the only thing we can figure out is that one or two players that were sitting on a lot of Plex decided they wanted to play some games, and that's how they did it. But in the end, Plex prices have stabilized. They've been stable for the last 5 or 6 months. So what is the problem we're trying to solve? And is the problem that we're trying to solve really a problem? And I can't tell. But what I can say is, it seems to me that a lot of these changes are based on a fundamental misunderstanding as to why groups in EVE go to war. And that, I think, is a problem because, if anything, what they're doing by making it harder for us to replace things and making it harder for us to generate income, they're going to stifle all these conflicts because nobody's going to want to fight if they know if I lose a fleet, I'm never going to be able to replace that. I don't think we ever want to be in a situation where somebody says, the old adage, and I will EVEify the old adage, World War B was fought with supers and titans. World War B2 is going to be fought with cruisers and destroyers. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be in that position. We want to be able to fight each other the way we fight each other now. And I have to say that I understand the reason for the dynamic bounty system. I hope that it does have an impact on botting. Whether it does or not, I don't know. I think the player base is extremely good at getting around things like this. And if the guys that are doing the bad stuff haven't figured out how to game the system in the first week, I will be surprised. But I don't think it's going to cause any more conflict. If anything, I think it's going to reduce conflict. And that's why I kind of am ambivalent about it. But that's my soapbox, and we can talk more about that when we get to that section of the show. And at some point, I do want to have some folks on to specifically talk about this, because I think it's going to be a big topic, and it's an ongoing discussion that we need to have in the game. So, Mittens,
I'm going to be kind of curious about this one. So, like, I guess, it's on CC now. And so the sort of fundamental question is, how much are people going to figure out to, ways to game this thing by the time it actually hits Tranquility? And I know it's very exciting to watch me burp, guys. Everybody is waiting for the moment to see me do
somebody's going to clip that. That's going to be on Reddit tomorrow, I'll tell you.
Anyway, so back on the Eve stuff. I want to hit a couple different points on this. So backing way up, I mean, we're basically sort of like doing like the CCP stuff now, and I'm just gonna roll with that. I don't think that these things have anything to do with the war. First of all, like every time, like especially just getting out of a fireside, or anytime any big changes, including like the resource redistribution, the poverty patches, all this other sort of stuff happens, game development takes a long time. I'm assuming in all of these things that this is stuff that has been in the works for a long ass time from like the ecosystem team or whatever. So I don't think that this has really anything to do with like the course of the war, or has anything to do with the player war. In case anybody asks, we saw some questions on the fireside about that. The second thing is that I'm going to be curious, because I think it's, what is it, like November 10th, I think is when this crop rotation, or like ratting Nerf patch is going to go in. Right. If it is on the test server, how is it going to be optimized? Is the player base just going to crack the code before it actually hits Tranquility? And one of the general questions I think we all have in the mix of all of this is, where is the economy going to stabilize? Because they are still at the phase of what I would describe as basically going into a control room of a nuclear reactor, saying that you stayed at a Holiday Inn Express the previous night, and then just starting to press random buttons and see what happens, right? And the Eve economy has never really been my thing, but I understand that it is a vast and complicated expanse of inputs and outputs and things that are happening, and that if you fiddle with it too much, all in too many different ways, nobody knows what's going to happen. Maybe it'll work out great, maybe it'll work out poorly, maybe this won't make a difference, because maybe the guys on the test server are going to figure out a way around this by the time push comes to shove in 2.5 weeks or whatever. So it's kind of hard to speak to. The general question that I sort of have when it comes to all of these attempts that I see CCP doing towards nerfing things is, what I think I would like to see kind of like and this is going to be terrifying because it's the V word, is the vision word, right? I would kind of like to see like a dev blog or some sort of an explanation, especially after the most recent poverty patches, where it's like, what are we supposed to do? Like, what is and I don't even mean that as like me or Goonswarm or Nullsec or anything, but like as Eve players, what is the vision that CCP has, if there is a vision, for our economic gameplay? Like, do the devs want us to have like everybody needs 2 Orca alts to like contribute to the process where we're mining titanium in HiSec on our alts? Like, is that the plan? Do they want us to start trying to get isogen in low sec? Like, I think one of the reasons why it's difficult to discuss the resource rebalancing patches in terms of, is it good, is it bad, is that it kind of gives me the like, where is this going question. Like, is it really just like a bunch of random nerfs, or is there like a vision for, we would like the player base to play Eve and interact with the Eve economy in particular ways, and that the player base is doing it wrong, and that we should be doing some other sort of way. And I think the lack of articulation as to what the developers who are changing the ecosystem would like to see us doing in the aftermath is one of the reasons why this is just kind of like, because I don't know, like, do they want us doing something as AFK as Orca mining in HiSec to get trite? Is that like the desired end goal? with all this chaos stuff, there's often like an issue of regulatory risk, right? You don't know what to commit to in terms of like a gameplay pathway or a PvE pathway or something or other, because if they're just flipping over tables and turning dials and knobs, and you go like, okay, well, I'm gonna go fire up some Orca, mining alts, and we're gonna go get some titanium and whatever. It would be nice to know if that's what CCP wants us to do, or what's the plan, basically. In a way, it's not as bad as the chaos stuff, but it does kind of feel like it seems chaotic, right? Like where is this going? If they would just tell us like, okay, we want to see a lot more industry in high sec. We expect our end game players to have their own army of Orca miners or.
The thing that's the thing.
I don't fucking know.
Well, that's the thing, and I think these are questions that the players have been asking for years. It's at least since the start of this austerity period. CSM's been asking the same thing. What are you looking for? And we always hear the same response from these guys, and that is typically, well, we want a healthy ecosystem. And then the inevitable follow-up to that is, well, what does that look like? And the response is, I don't know, but it's not healthy now. That's the only thing we can get out of these guys, is that it's not healthy now. And we'll know it when we see it.
If a doctor told me that, I would be fucking terrified. Like, hey, you're sick.
But I don't know what it is.
Bad and wrong with you.
But I know you're not well.
I'm going to start injecting you with stuff. And I don't know if it's going to make you better or not, but you're definitely sick now. So here's some drugs, baby. Yeah.
And that's what frustrates me, is that I feel like because we don't know where we're going, we know we're going somewhere. We know that people think there's a problem with where we were, but we don't know where we're going, and we don't know how to get there, and we're just kind of like taking a road and seeing what happens. And I mean, I understand that at least according to CCP, they've got a plan. They know they're working towards it. They're doing stuff they need to do, but they are being opaque about it. And I guess they figure we're going to game it. But you know what? Every time they tell us new stuff, like we know we have this diminishing returns. We have this dynamic bounty system that's going in November 10th. They're supposed to be doing, at least they made the announcement in that announcement, that there would be the final review of the new ESS system that they had pitched a couple months ago, and then it kind of set back. So we're going to see that. So I think in the end, we're going to try to figure out what is all this going to, and then you throw in the mining stuff. What is all this together going to mean? What is income generation going to look like at the player level? What's it going to look like at the corp level? What's it going to look like at the alliance level in a couple of months? And I don't know. I mean, right now, we're in the middle of a war. In it and other groups, we lost our space. We're putting our space. We're going back to our space. We're trying to recreate our income streams. Is it going to look the same as it did before? It's never going to look like it did. You don't really know what to invest in.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's never going to look like it did in 2018. But where's the best bang for our buck? Is it ratting? Is it moon mining? Is it industry? I mean, where's the best way for folks to make money now? And I think we're going to have to figure that out. And unfortunately, I figure by the time we figure that out, they'll change it again. So it's this never-ending thing of once we figure out the meta, they're going to change it so that we never know for sure what's going to happen. So we'll go from there. But anyway, I think that was what I wanted to talk about at the beginning of the show. But we've gone 20 minutes already, and we haven't talked about the war. And I think we absolutely have to talk about the war because people are here to hear us talk about the war.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I was reliably informed that Goonswarm and the Imperium are out of morale. The war is almost over within a week. Because magically the bad guys are there. We're going to do it. Let's press the button, and I'll try not to burp during the cutscene.
Nullsec Power Hour.
Maybe I should burp during the cutscene. Maybe that's the safest time.
All right, we are back from the Nullsec Power Hour. Obviously, is the invasion of Delve, as you all saw last Saturday. We were riding high, having killed 4 keep stars in NPC Delve. 5th time was the charm. The next day, Saturday, the SNEC Coalition was successful in getting a Keepstar online in YZ in NPC Delve. That was their big move, and then they spent the rest of the week hitting iHubs in the entry constellation from AQT through SVM into Delve. They managed to take a number of iHubs.
They have blown up some iHubs, and
there you go.
Unfortunately, after blowing up our iHubs, that was it. Goons quit en masse. I am here burping and trying to not crap my pants. But as we all know, the war was going to end immediately the moment that the bad guys moved into NPC Delve, and they did. So I guess this is our last show.
It's over. We're done.
It's been an honor. It's been an honor.
Bye, guys. We'll see you next week. We're getting our Saturdays back.
Oh my God!
You guys can go watch college football instead of watching us. It'll be great.
God. So yeah, let's talk about this.
Or not.
So
that was a joke, guys. By the way, just so
the bad guys bubble wrapped a Keepstar, and fair play to them. And I just got a weird video error on the video download.
No, you're fine. That happens sometimes on Twitch. Just refresh.
Twitch is being weird today.
Twitch has been weird for a while.
Much like my stomach. But my stomach is not being weird. It is having a perfectly normal and reasonable reaction to having 4 microwave sliders at 3 a.m. because I'm a fucking genius. Anyway, let's talk about this. So it is always a frightening moment as an alliance leader when you are reading the pings and the channels and all the other things that the bad guys are doing, and you see them have a morale surge, right? Like, they got into Delve finally. They bubble wrapped a Keepstar. Congratulations. And they're now in NPC Delve, and it's now going to be very hard for us to defend our hubs because we traded hubs back and forth with these guys in other regions. But the argument is that this time is different because it's Delve, and that goons are exhausted, and that it's almost over, guys, and just keep on going. But what we've now seen after several days of fighting is that basically they're top decking. Like, this is something I was saying on the far side and can be Goonie spin or whatever. But our strategy has always been one of slow grinding attrition, right? Like, in between these slow grinding attrition strategies, there are these big set piece battles where we try wacky shit. And sometimes that wacky shit doesn't work, right? Like Operation Inho. So grind them down, get them to the point where you think you can try to smack them, and then back to the grind. So we had a couple weeks of set piece battles. Now we are back in the iHub, traditional Citadel defense phase. The enemy strategy is a pretty reasonable one, considering that we know that they do not want to attack our citadels they think that if they just blow up our iHubs and go after our jump bridges and stuff like that, that goons will quit en masse and the war will be over. And it's on us to show that it's not, right? Like, I can be up here and saying that we're not quitting, doing whatever, but at the end of the day, our people need to show up on the field every day and fight and grind and do that. And they have done that, right? Like, we are back to winning ISK wars and fights. We're trying to make them bleed at every step of the way when we're doing these iHub things. And I haven't really made a secret about our current stage strategy. Am I hold on. Okay.
All right. You made it. You're all right. Woo! Okay. All right. Woo! It passed.
Okay. I don't know if it's going to be Verp. I have no idea what's going to happen here. I do not normally eat a bunch of White Castle at 3 a.m.
I have to say, this has been the most dramatic show we've done in a while, because I just don't know what's going to happen to you.
But anyway, as I was saying earlier on the fireside, if you you can tune this out if you're sick of hearing me talk about this. But basically, our strategy is one of attrition and grind. Like, the bad guys, they started this war with
Vince,
3 to 1
Can I grab
odds.
you 1 second? Hold on a second. I want you to explain attrition, because I think you're using attrition in a different way than some folks in the chat think you're using attrition. You're not talking about ISK, right? You're talking about people logging in.
I'm talking about participation attrition.
Thank you.
When I'm talking about grinding them down, I'm not talking about that kind of thing. When you are outnumbered 3 to 1, right? You're playing on Iron Man Impossible. Like, the bad guys are basically if this was a game of XCOM, we are playing on Iron Man Impossible, and our enemies are playing on the newbie easy mode, right? Like, they have every advantage possible. We have every disadvantage, and we're still here, and our numbers are still holding strong, and we're still fighting. But what is funny about this is that since the beginning of the war, 3.5 months ago, you see that their 3 to 1 advantage has slowly gotten ground down in the attrition warfare part of this. They have 2,000 citadels in Delve to grind through, right? 2,000 citadels each that has 3 timers on it. They want to try to get us to break and run away by just blowing up the iHubs and banging pots and pans and saying, "We've got you now, goons." But they don't really have anything else that they can do in terms of a surge, right? Like, they don't have, hey, we can put down another Keepstar. They can't say, hey, now we're really invading Delve. The rubber has hit the road. Like, we are in the cool zone where either, they have to put up and shut up and grind through everything and siege 1 DQ1 and do all these things, or we give up and go home and evacuate and, it's over, goons gave up. Obviously, that's not happening. But what's interesting to me over the last several days of fighting on these iHubs is that we have finally broken the 2 to 1 odds barrier, right? In the last 2 days of fighting over these iHubs, we were consistently hitting 1 point, in the battle last night, it was 1.88 to 1 odds. I didn't actually break out the calculator on the day prior because I wanted to I didn't know it was going to be a fluke. Like, hey, they're below 2-1. Is this a thing? So our goal, obviously, is to grind these guys down by turning up to fight every single day, doing our thing. And they are wandering off slowly but steadily, right? It's not like, oh my God, one day, Villy is not going to go, oh, well, I've decided that I'm bored of this now and leaving, right? The leadership is fully committed to this. They're stuck in this war, just like we're stuck in this war. But their line members are not having fun. Their line members are fucking off. And they're fucking off at a pretty steady rate. It's a slow rate, but again, it's a matter of weeks. Like, we're going to have to grind them down. I think that we're going to hit, once we hit like 1.5 to 1, we're never going to hit 1-to-1 odds in this. Like, it's never going to be a straight even matchup because, again, we're playing on Iron Man Impossible.
Not until Fraternity backstabs the rest of them.
Right. They're playing on like little babby newbie mode. But when we hit closer to like 1.5 to 1 parity in our vulnerability zones, I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable in terms of a lot of military options. And it's a matter of just grinding them to base every single day. Turn up, fight, grind them. And, our guys are turning up, right? Like, during peacetime, I would give a fireside chat and would be like, hey, maybe 550, 600, 700 dudes turn up to that. When I'm given a fireside and I see north of 1,100 people on Mumble listening to me run my mouth, it shows that the line is there and they've been turning up. So that's basically where we are. We're at the stage where they're going to go after our IHUBs. They're going to avoid our keep stars. They're going to hope that we melt away and give up because they know that if they try to attack us on a keep star in a traditional way, the force multiplier effect means that we will be able to stop them. And it's just a matter of getting rid of, 5 dudes here, 5 dudes there. They're bad guys. Every time they jump clone home, fewer of them jump clone back to the front. So yeah, I mean, if you expected me to come here on the meta show and be like, yeah, guys, it's we lost iHubs in Delve, and because we lost iHubs in period basis, we traded them. We lost iHubs in Quirius, we traded them. It is easier to attack an iHub than to defend an iHub. So what we're seeing happening here, I think they still have a hub in 49. But when they had W6V, GOP, and some of the other ones where they had taken from us in Quirius and Keepstar systems, we were then able to hack them back, so they weren't able to get the SOV index up to jammer range. 49 is still in danger. It would be kind of nice if they would actually start sieging our Keepstars because we'll deal with that later. But that is basically the strategy. They hope that we will wander off, and we aren't.
And when it comes down to it, one of the things that I'd like to just remind everybody is this war has not gone the way of past wars. All right, I mean, the prior to this war, what we saw every major time, at least as far as I can recall, and Mittens, you can remind me if I'm wrong. We saw wars that started. There was the skirmishing phase, there was the fighting phase, there was some SOV stuff back and forth, there was this type of thing, and then there was this 1 or 2 big set-piece battles like we saw in YZ, like we saw with the Keepstar fights and everything like that. Once those battles were over, win or lose, whatever side lost, that was the end. The war basically was over at that point. Whether it was the Glassing Tribute, whether it was MTAC-O, whether it was the Fraternity Test War that just literally preceded this. They fought for 8 months. It was a stalemate. It was back and forth and back and forth. Fraternity loses one big fight, and then the war is over. So we've kind of hit that point. We've done multiple of these big fights, and we're still here. We're still fighting. So obviously, I don't think that this is going to go the way that past wars have gone. I don't think it's going to be the kind of thing where one side finally hits their thing and then boom, they decide, well, we're done. We're not going to fight anymore. I don't see that, and I don't see us getting to the point where we decide, oh well, we can't hold Delve, so we're just going to leave. We're just going to go to Saren and again. And
well, we can't do that.
We can't.
That's the thing that I think that the enemy has a reasonable theory of case, right? Like when I'm shitting on the puppies and things like that, this week was put up or shut up, right? Their theory of case was they were going to come here, and that if they finally got a Keepstar down in NPC Delve, for all they knew, we would pull up and go to Saren, right? Like during the casino war, because again, an important thing is that the enemy, and I think this is fascinating, I've always noticed that our enemies, it's not just that they ignore what we're saying, but it's almost like they stick their fingers in their ears, like la 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 la. They deliberately will not even consider the arguments that we make because they're afraid that they're getting like spin zoned by the spin master or something or other. So, which is a huge advantage to us because they don't understand us, and they refuse to understand us because even attempting to understand us means Goonie spin. So their view of us is that we're just a bunch of crabs, and that the moment that they bang their pots and pans together hard and delve, we will uproot and go to Saranen. The reason why we retreated in the casino war is because they had infinite ISK cheats that got banned by CCP after we retreated to Saranen. We couldn't touch the casino assets. The casino assets got banned because they used dark money to cheat. They don't have that dark money anymore. Everybody is having to fund this war the old-fashioned way. You can make FRT botting jokes if you want, but in general, there isn't like a pool of ISK cheats in the game that's interfering with the war right now, which is why one reason why we're staying and fighting. But two, we sounded the horn of Gundor. Like, we are chained to the mast on this. From a leadership perspective, the moment that we press the, in case of emergency, break glass, hit the big red button, sound the horn of Gundor, we're locked into this war. We literally cannot evacuate to Saranen or anything like that, equivalent like in the casino war, because the ancients will kill us. We asked them to resub to this damn game to fight for Gundor. We are here doing that. And we have been supported tremendously by our ancients who have come back and handed us their titans, handed us ISK, taking whatever is necessary to fight the puppies. But that also means that we are locked into this motherfucker.
And it's not only that. I mean, not only that. It's like they have said from the beginning that this is a war of annihilation. Their goal is to destroy the Imperium. They want us to quit playing. They want to blow up the Imperium, get in it, and the rest of these groups to split off and go do their other thing. We have nothing to lose at this point. There's no reason for us to run off and pretend like we're going to go set up in another system because they promise to chase us down wherever we go. So why would we choose to go and fight somewhere else where we don't have 3+ years worth of infrastructure here? And the thing is, they got to kill these keep stars. Every one of those keep stars can have Titan staged out of it. 2,000
citadels in Delph. 2,000.
So in the end, that's the thing. And I feel like for those of you who thought this was going to be an easy war, I think you've learned the hard way that it's not. There have been victories on both sides. I know ProGod did a legacy update. Frank's going to talk about it a little bit later. That basically we've won every major battle. No, you haven't. So we won every major battle except for a couple of hiccups. Yeah, which means you haven't won every major battle. There have been plenty of fights back and forth. There's been Sov taken on both sides. There are 9 systems in Delve with iHubs that are owned by SNEC Coalition alliances. There are 8 in Esoteria that are owned by the Imperium. I mean, if you're going to go that route, all right, they're beating us by 1 iHub. Great. I mean, at the end of the day, this fight is not going anywhere. The war is still, we're in the middle of the 4th month of the war. For those who seem to think that 1 DQ by Christmas is possible, hey, maybe it is. I don't know. We'll see.
Bring it.
We'll see it. Well, we're going to have to fight the fights. It's not going to be easy, and you're not going to be getting, these wins handed to you on a silver platter because we're not going anywhere. We're not going to pull an NC dot and just roll over and let you guys kill 4 keep stars in a day. We're not going to do that. At least as far as I know. And hey, I'm just a line member, but it would flabbergast me if that was the way that this went, because that's not what we're about, and that's not how the tenor of this war has been. We have been willing to fight the whole time, and we're still fighting. And like I said, the numbers look good. I'm looking at the latest numbers. Everything was down this week. Yes, everything was down this week. But you know what? When you come off 2 solid weeks of a CTA every second day or every third day, and everybody is tired, they're in their chairs for 14. I did almost 24 hours solid worth of streams over that time period, just for like 2 of the fights. And there was another 10 hours added in there after that. So we were all tired. We took a little bit of a break, but I think we're going to see the pace pick up again. We're going to start seeing folks fighting again. We've already seen a lot of skirmishes. We're seeing a lot of these fights. I see Horde and NC Dot and the guys are bringing their numbers like they always have been. Test is actually showing up for some of these, which is amazing. It's nice. You're not just sending the meat shields. You got the test guys coming in too, which is great. And then, of course, obviously, we got a ton of people that are watching, that are on the streams, that are paying attention, that are very salty, but they're here and they want to hear what we're going to say, and they think we're losing. But you know what? Whether we win or lose, we're here to fight. That's part of the fun. we're going to go down fighting. We're not going to be one of these guys that just roll over and let you guys take what we have. We're not going to do that. So,
I mean, like, whatever. At the end of the day, they got to go after the keep stars, or they have to convince us to quit the game and give up without attacking our keep stars, which is sort of their plan, I guess.
I don't know how you can take how do you take Delve without killing a keep star? I mean, I just don't.
Well, I mean, if we were like
them, all of them.
Where I was going with the whole theory of case thing is that if we were like Test, right? If we were essentially a similar organization, and if you buy into the puppy line about how like goons are only interested in crabbing and that goons will run away if we can't PvE or something like that, which incidentally you would have already seen happen. It hasn't happened. Sorry, you were wrong. Your theory of case sucks because you don't understand your enemy. But that was their theory. And so this week was like put up or shut up week. Like if goons will keep fighting and the Imperium will keep fighting despite like losing iHubs and continue with the strategy of attrition, grinding their participation down, making it miserable for them at every opportunity, which is what we excel at and have always excelled at. Eventually you will get a point where instead of being outnumbered, so back this up, when you're outnumbered 3-1, getting that number down 2.5-1, you're still fucked unless you're like on a keep star or something like that. But if you're at the point where they're at like 1.9, 1.8-1, and then you get it down to like 1.5-1, there's a lot of other force multipliers and other things you can use. So I'm not saying that we're out of the woods yet, and we're not out of the woods until it's over one way or the other. But it's pretty clear that from the start of this war, the snake people have clearly like their interest level in this has gradually declined at the line level, regardless of like Villy's obsessions with podcasts, regardless of whoever's attempts to like get attention and get on the spotlight or whatever, which is whatever is happening with the Pappy leadership. But you know, this is why defensive wars favor defensive wars. Time is on the defender's side, because essentially the attackers lose interest because the defenders make it miserable. And as long as the defenders keep fighting, you know, whatever, like, okay, let's say you lose every single iHub in Delve. How long is that going to take? What is the price they're going to pay in participation? I don't think we're going to lose every single iHub in Delve, because I think before we get anywhere near to that point, we're going to get closer to that 1.5-1 numbers. And then that's really like a put up or shut up kind of thing. I don't know whether it's true or not when we hit 1.5-1, if that does actually change things. That is my theory of case, as you know, over here in my chair, trying to not burp too much, vomit on myself, or poop myself on live TV.
There you go.
But
I like it.
That's where we are. So yeah, I think that's it for the war, right? It's the grind, right? Like it's now just going to be daily grind. Yeah, exactly.
All right, we got to talk about some CCP stuff. So we're going to do Piercing Corporate Veil, and we're going to talk about what's going on there. And then Frank will be here, and we will wrap the show up. So let me go ahead and get this going. All right, right now we've seen two major changes that have been announced. The first one, I think, is something that we're all excited about, and that is the Supercarrier Revamp. Among other things, in addition to what we already know about Supers, the VAT Clone Bay, or whatever they're calling it now, they're also doubling in size, which is great, because I think everybody was all excited when the Aeon's model was much, much bigger, and then all of a sudden it went back to being little. It was big, and then it was little, and we were sad. But now it looks like they're all going to be big, which is great. One of the big gripes has been for a while, why is my fax bigger than my Supercarrier? Well, it's not going to be anymore, so that's a good sign. But in addition, they made some tweaks. The Aeon and the Wyvern got some love. They got some damage increases that'll make them a little bit more useful. In addition, all of these ships got a doubling of their of the size of their ship maintenance bay, which is great for two reasons. One, it enables you to use this VAT clone bay thing that they are putting on these supers the way it's intended, which is to provide a mothership that you can have guys clone into as they're dying in a fight to get them reship and get back out in the fight. And then second, and most important to those of us, maybe who might be evacing someday, hey, guess what? I can fit a ton more ships in my super than I could before. That's great. So anyway, that's a joke, guys. That was supposed to be funny, so you can laugh at that. Please clap. When it gets down to it, I think the super changes are going to be good. People are going to like that, and I think that's going to have an impact. Whether or not people use this clone bay the way that's intended, I don't know. I think what we're going to see is, I think people are going to try to figure out what makes the most sense. So for example, in the Keepstar fights, I think this would have been great because it cuts out one of the big areas. You take this. Apparently, the player has to take a drug that lasts through a potting that gives them the ability to warp to when they're potted. Instead of cloning in their death clone location, they clone at the closest super in the fleet, and that lets them. And then they can pull a ship out of that super's SMB, and they can get back in the fight. If we had that on the Keepstar grids, that would have made meant so easier to reship and get stuff out in those types of Zerg rush, throw as much as we can at the bad guys type fights. So I think that would have definitely had a use case then. I think that would have been useful. In other types of fights, who knows? Having the ability to have a guy die and land in a new Logi ship and get back on the grid, I think that's going to keep some of these ships, keep some of these fights going a little longer than they might otherwise if you've got supers, in a place that they can be used. So I think there are a lot of things that I like this change. I think there are going to be a lot of changes, potential things that can be changed in the meta that will benefit from these super carrier changes. Plus, it's just cool. It's a new thing. We never really saw Titans used for the clone bays that they have, or Rorquals used that way. So maybe the super is where it makes the most sense. It's not as expensive, not as much of a frontline type ship as the Titan. Typically, when you're dropping these things, if you're not dropping them in a blob, you're dropping them on a structure so that they're relatively safe. So it's just easier than it's kind of like a mobile Fortizar, And I think that I think might have some use. As a base type thing. So I think we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening here with the new super carrier Revamp. And then what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, clone bays have been one of those things in EVE Online that they've been trying to make relevant in some capacity for approximately forever. I haven't seen any chatter about it, right? I haven't seen, people are talking about it and things like that, but I haven't really seen any of the kind of scheming that you would expect when CCP is adding the kind of thing into the sandbox. The biggest amount of chatter that I have seen in the discussions we've been having that are militarily relevant from the, hey guys, we're doing this thing with motherships. I still prefer motherships as a name for supercarriers. I think supercarriers is dumb compared to motherships. It's the fighter nerf, right? The fighter nerf is actually kind of relevant, right? They're changing light fighters such that their sig radius is getting bigger and they're making them a little bit slower. And I think that's probably long overdue. I think fighters are a little bit OP. But just in terms of, I'm not a super cap combat expert, right? We have super cap combat experts. I'm very much not one of them. But I haven't seen our expert nerds going, ooh, wow, here's this amazing thing. What they're happy about is the models are getting bigger, which is unfortunate from a certain perspective because it makes it harder to do another Operation Inho, right? Because it's okay, well, CCP might be fixing the bosuns such that they work, but now super carriers are 4 times bigger, so they're going to be spread out more. So, hey guys, we fixed the in-game weapon, and please go try to use it again. We swear you can rely on our code. I mean, that's the joke. But
you have to laugh at that too, guys. That was also a joke.
But yeah,
you didn't notice.
I think mainly the fighter nerf is the big deal. I haven't really seen much chatter about oh my god, the motherships are back. So we'll see what happens. Right. Kind of like with all the other stuff CCB is doing, you're kind of okay, what's the vision statement on this? What are we going to use it in the way that they intended? Probably not. Is it we'll see.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. For those who, in addition, I didn't mention this, but this is something important. There was also a slight fighter nerf. They are reduced in speed. Their signature radius is increased so that they're easier to hit now. So obviously, I know some people have managed to figure out how to make money super ratting. I don't know how you're doing it now because I've lost so many fighters trying to do it. It's not worth it anymore. I'm losing more in fighters than I'm getting in ticks. So if you guys have figured that out, that's great. But it looks like they're going to try to make it even harder for you guys again. So that's something that was added in this. I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have in big fights, but it's going to be a big deal. Heavy fighters did get a boost. They got a 10% boost. So that's good for supers. Light fight. I guess really what they want is for supers to be using light fighters, and then not using light fighters, using heavy fighters, and not using the light fighters to rat. That's the only thing I can think of that makes sense to do that. But in any event, that was a thing. The next thing, obviously, dynamic bounty system. We talked about this. I already went over it. But I mean, from a substantive perspective, what they're trying to do, essentially what this is, it's diminishing returns. The more you rat, the less ISK you're going to make. The safer the system, the less ISK you're going to make. The more dangerous the system, you'll make better ticks. And if it's in a system that's not being completely ratted out all the time, you'll make better ticks. The goal, I guess, is to make people move around. I don't think that's realistic. I feel like if you have a safe system, and yeah, maybe you're making 60% of what you were making before, but you're not dying, so that's still 60% more than zero. I don't see these guys. I don't see if you're in Owasso and you're making 6 trillion ISK a month. All right, maybe you're only going to make 5 now, but you're still safe. Why would you move? I don't think the math is going to be there that's going to get these people to move around a lot. But I will say this, at least from the Imperium standpoint, hey, Delve's pretty dangerous right now. This is going to be great. We're not going to have to worry about our ratting ticks going down. So, silver linings, everybody. I don't know. I don't know what the impact of this is going to be until we see it, and what player response is going to be. Now, I will say this, obviously, the first thing any of us, including all of us on the CSM, said when we saw this design was everybody's just going to take their alts and blow them up.
Right, exactly. Like you just blow up a bunch of newbie ships or whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to game it, or they're trying to do something about that. But if right. CCP doesn't, if they have an intention behind this to actually make a change to the game that'll matter, they kind of need to examine what the players are going to be doing on CC and what players are talking about and the feedback they're going to get for this. Because otherwise they're going to be like, hey, here's this amazing new feature, and they're going to put it in, and the player's going to be like, yeah, we already figured out a way around this 2 weeks ago on CC, and I don't know. We're just going to have to see whether it's actually going to make, and if it doesn't make a difference, what is the percentage difference in it? And there's just a bunch of complicated PvE shit, which is a little bit too much for my little mitten brain. But I have not seen anybody talking about this in a way of this is going to be a significant change, right? It's packaged as a significant change. I think CCP believes it's going to be a significant change, but people don't seem to think that. People are not reacting to it oh my god, such a huge nerf, such a huge buff. It's more really, do we just suicide some of our own ships to get the whatever metric is up necessary to for the people in Owasso to go back to botting, right? If people are botting in the drone regions, they will just sort of figure out what they have to do to maximize the ISK in that system, or figure out a way around it. I have no idea, but it just
I don't see it being a big thing. So
I don't see it. It doesn't sound like it's going to be an effect. Because the resource nerf, the poverty patch, people were screaming about the poverty patch, right? You can tell when CCP is dialing in something that's gonna touch an algae place, right? They're gonna get there. Everybody's asteroids don't work. Reprocessing is fucked compared to before. We're mining isogen and low sec, I guess. Everybody's got to get high sec orc alts. That's a big change that screwed over a lot of people's stuff. This bounty redistribution thing has been more okay, guys, people are just going to game a way around that inside of a week. So, we'll burn that bridge when we come to it.
Exactly. And I think, frankly, I will be very disappointed in the EVE Online player base if we haven't figured this out within about the first week.
Figure it out before it hits. I mean, it's on CC right now, so you can go there and test it and mess around with it and, get ahead of the curve, from what I understand.
In any event. So that's the big EVE news. I mean, there's some other little things. There was an MER that came out. If you want to know, here's the TLDR on the MER. Delve production, still through the roof. Owasso ratting, still through the roof. High-sec mining, beating everybody else. There you go. There's your September MER. I mean, it was second verse, same as the first from August. Not much has changed. Right now, as far as I can tell, if you're a high-sec miner or you have an alt in high-sec, that's where the money is. If you're in fraternity, you're laughing at these guys in the war because you guys are up making bank while the rest of us are killing each other and wasting trillions of ISK in fights. And if you are and if you are in Delve, you are making a ton of stuff because we're fighting a war. So that's essentially what the MER said. I don't think we have to go into too many details. Are you guys ready for a war update?
I think we need somebody who's not having gastric issues from too many sliders to be able to tell us what's really going on in the war.
I think that's a good idea.
I feel my herp is getting interrupted by my burps.
I will say, if Frank was going to burp, he probably would just do it. So at least you've been polite
would.
about it.
He probably would.
He's not as cultured as those of us on the show are. So, all right, everybody, here we go. We are going into our war update. All right, everybody, we are back. I am Fountain Frank. I am well protected today, wrapped in a protective bubble to keep myself safe from anyone trying to attack me. I'm good. I've got right here, Aquarius George has joined me. He is bubbled too. Nothing is going to get my dear Aquarius George. We are all set. We have been told by CCP that I can have as much as 149 inches of bubble wrap wrapped around me before it becomes an exploit. So we are okay. Everything's going to be fine.
Oh my God.
I'm bubbled. Don't worry about me, guys. I'll be fine. So, all right. War update. Let's talk about the war. First of all, fake Delph. NPC Delph is not Delph. That's fake Delph. So yes, they got a Keepstar up in fake Delph. That's fine. We don't care. That's great. That's nice. Now you have something that you have to put fuel in. We just made you spend more money. You have to fuel that Keepstar. Where are you going to get that in? They just nerfed ice. Fuel is expensive again. You go find the ice to put the fuel in that stupid structure. We totally gamed you guys. We actually planned this. All right? I'm going to tell you right now, from the beginning of this fight, this was the plan. We actually planned to let you online this Keepstar. We even named it for you. Long before this timer even started, I spammed it multiple times how this Keepstar would be named Bubble on 5. I'm just saying. I typed it in Imperium News. It was in New Eden Post. It was on Jabber. It was in chat. Guess what? What's it now named? Bubble on 5. I also slipped up and I told New Eden Post, I said 20 minutes before the timer was ticking, we had decided to let this one online, but Redline deleted my comments because he couldn't handle the truth. We, the Imperium, decided to let this Keepstar online. We named it for you guys. We didn't form up to kill it, but to kill the move ops that were trickling in. Bubble on 5 is now online because we let it happen. We allowed it to show you the difference between shooting an online Keepstar and shooting an online Keepstar. You claim this is an invasion. Well, now here's your chance to invade. So go ahead. Try to get past my bubbles. I don't think you're going to be able to do it. Now, I want to say, I was very impressed. There was a very, very long legacy update that was posted ostensibly by ProGod. I know he didn't write it. You know why I know he didn't write it? Because first of all, there were a lot of words. A lot of words. And we know ProGod is not a writer. Okay, guys? This is not his thing. All right? Second, now I will say, he obviously must have told somebody how to write it because he spent 1,400 words on why the bosun trap was a bad idea. I mean,
I'm really glad I didn't read it.
Do you need 1,400 words to say We thought about this. We didn't think it was good. But here's the deal. The reason why I know he didn't write it is because Frank has spies everywhere. Right here, this guy. And I got a copy of the original update that they were going to do. And I'll put it on the screen. This is what the original update was that they expanded on. There it is. Legacy War update. Don't tell Ron I took his favorite flavor crayon. And that's it. Thanks, Fleet. Goon's bad. Goon's feed. Goon's poor. Goon's dumb. Bosun. Bad. We tee. Pappy smart. Goon's dumb. Goon's poor. The end. That was the update. This was their update. Somebody then went and turned that into an Olmeca-style essay and put it on Reddit. Okay, great. That's fine. Nobody read it. Nobody wanted to read it. I didn't want to read it. It's too fucking long. Okay? It's way, way, way too long. All right. Now, the other thing that happened this week, and you guys were fixated on this, but it's not the important thing. Okay? The other thing that happened this week was Init announced that we were cutting our SRP by 50%. Okay. Yes, that happened. But you guys don't even know. Okay? All I'm saying is, I've heard a lot of people say, Frank, you look really good, man. You look like you've lost some weight. Things are going, you look like you're doing all right. It's like this war's been pretty good for you. Guys, Init didn't just cut our SRP. They cut our lunch money in half. I've not had a fucking solid meal in 4 months. I'm really hungry. I lost this weight. This was not something that I asked for. So if you got any ISK, man, I could use a fucking sandwich. I'm just saying.
Do you want any White Castle?
Oh, God, yes. Give me some White Castle. Then I'll be shitting my way to even less weight. Oh, dear God. It's bad. All right. Now, in all seriousness, I want to talk about something that has happened over the last week. I'm taking the bubbles off because I want to look at you and I want to be real for a minute, okay? Y'all are salty. Bad guys, you're like, really, like you can't take jokes. Like Mitten says funny stuff and you think he's serious. Like he talks about going upstairs and having fun, and that's like cringy. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that on the internet it's not okay to tell somebody else that they're not getting laid. I thought that was a standard thing. But apparently that's a bad thing. And black shirts and saying come and get us, so bad. So, you know what? I was thinking the other day how Reddit after the big fight, like, it wasn't enough to say, hey, we won. Like, they spent an entire week making funny videos of poor Brisk and poor Mittens, saying how horrible Mittens was, and, oh, it's so cringy. Oh, my God. Like, I've never seen adults use the word cringy as often as happened in the week after the fight. It was pretty crazy. And I went back and I was thinking, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of that old 2 minutes hate joke that they had in that book, 1984. Have you ever read that book? I hope you guys have read that book. I'm hoping that maybe some people in this audience had a proper secondary education and read 1984. And in that one of the ways that the bad guys control the population is by giving them someone to hate and throw things at. And they do it every week, and they call it 2 minutes hate, and everybody gets there and they throw stuff at the screen and they yell and oh, it's so horrible. I could not believe this. George found it. Guys, you're not going to believe this shit. Pappy does this. This is what they do. They literally do this. I found the video. I'm going to show you right now. We have proof of how the SNEC Coalition keeps people in their fleets. And it's all about Mittens. It's about making him the bad guy. I could not
bad guy, though.
Believe this, but they're like a really bad guy. Like they don't like
really bad, mean
somebody
somebody
throwing shoes at you kind of mean. They don't like you, man. It's crazy. So, without further ado, snuck out from Sneck Coalition headquarters in Esoteria, we have 2 Minutes Hate.
This is INN.
This is our land, a land of peace and of plenty, a land of hope and dinosaurs. This is our land, Esoteria. These are our people, the workers, the strivers, the builders. These are our people, bubbling, fighting, bleeding, dying, in Aquarius and other far-flung battlefields, fighting against those who would sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids. Who would do this to us? They are the enemy. The cringeworthy, brainwashed masses of the Imperium. In the barren regions of Period Basis and Cloud Ring, on the floodplains of Fountain, trillions in Isk and Or are sacrificed. But even as we stand on the cusp of victory, there is one man, an evil tumor, growing, spreading in our midst. Shout his name to the world.
They can try to give it, but they can't take it. They talk shit about me.
Go play Jay!
They talk shit about all of them. We're bad people. But when somebody says anything mean about them, they go cry. Because they're a bunch of pathetic fucking crybabies. And I am happy to be that lightning rod because somebody's got to do it. And you know what? After we won last night, I went upstairs. Battle station down here in classic, super nerd thing in a split level house with a whole cancer down here. I went upstairs. I can't talk about what I did actually because it's regulations. But I relaxed. I had some fun, and eat my ass. Eat my ass. It's right here. You can eat my ass. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Spinning! You're spinning! 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 Spinning!
Oh, it's an insult. Oh my god, that's
Eat my ass. Eat my ass. It's right here. You can eat my ass. That's...
So there you go. 2 minutes hate. Thank you, Frank.
Fucking God.
Thank you, Frank, for showing us what it's like to be in Sneck and how they have to motivate their people to get out and fight this war. There you go. All right, so that's on Reddit if you guys
me.
want to look. I just put it up. It's on my YouTube as well. So, yeah, that's the thing. I got to tell you, having watched what happened during the last week and everything, just with the number of folks freaking out about us having a good time on this show.
Who's mad?
Come on, man. That 2 minutes sake, that was it. That's what it seemed like.
I enjoy it. Like, genuinely, when I say eat my ass, I want you to know that the kind of people that are really, really mad at me, I want them to be mad at me because they're the kind of people I don't want in the Imperium, right? So what I'm saying here, it's genuine. Please do, like, seriously, eat my ass. It's really gross right now.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Anyway, so let's get out of here. I think actually there's one other thing before we go. I don't know if you have access to it.
Go ahead.
All right,
the link to the video is in the chat. Go ahead.
Do you have the a certain video to a certain mindless self-indulgence song that was broadcasted? Do you have the fuck?
I have it, but I can't play it because it's got copyrighted stuff in there.
Oh,
we'll get
shit,
in trouble.
that's right. Yeah. Well,
I wanted to so bad. I was going to do that as the
closing
outro,
out with
but
Fuck
then I'm
Machine would be even better after how mad they are.
I know, right? I know. But
alas, copyrights. But there's a video. It'll make you even
them.
more upset if you are mad about us partying and having a good time, even though Goonswarm and the Imperium is literally infamous for being the hardest partiers in EVE, because that's what we do. But apparently that makes people mad, and that's good. So I'll drop it in chat. Fuck it.
Go ahead. Or you go ahead and link it in chat. We just can't play it on the screen. But if you link it, nobody's going to give anybody a hard time. It'll be fine.
If you are mad about me having fun and partying, and you say that is cringe, and you are some sort of weird incel who freaks out about that kind of stuff, please watch this video, because it will make you even more upset. And maybe it'll inspire you to, I don't know. Actually, I don't care
what
it inspires you or not to do. We are done here, boys and girls. And yeah, it's been a good show. I managed to not puke or shit myself on live TV.
Which I think is a low enough bar for us to say this was a great show. There you
Exactly. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. And we will see you next week.
You got it. Everybody, thanks again for watching. This has been the Meta Show for October 24th. I'm Brister Ball. This was the Matani. Pine cones to Linda Est. You stay classy, New Eden.